Believe it or not, the 2026 NFL Draft will be coming up before we know it, and there are definitely a lot of big names for next year's draft class, but in today's video, I want to highlight some guys who in my opinion are sleepers. I'm pretty excited for this one as I have 10 different guys I want to spotlight today, but before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you can support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's get started and talk about 10 sleeper quarterbacks for the 2026 NFL Draft. Okay, so I first actually wanted to start out with the guys who are some of the main prospects, as Arch Manning, Garrett Nussmeier, and Cade Klubnik seem to be the top three, with Drew Aller and Carson Beck sort of being number 4 and 5. John Mateer is also getting a lot of hype, and so is Nico Imaliava, but I'm not going to talk about any of those guys. The first guy I want to talk about is Sam Levit from Arizona State. Honestly, Sam has one of the best stories in college football right now, as coming out of West Linn High School in Oregon, nobody really expected this guy to be that big of a deal. Despite having nearly 3,200 yards and 36 touchdowns, Sam Levit was considered a 3-star recruit by most sites, but did end up getting a 4-star ranking on 24/7 Sports. He decided to commit to Michigan State and would arrive as part of their 2023 class. He was sort of stuck in a loaded quarterback room that also included a couple other decent recruits, and Levit ended up throwing for 2 touchdowns in 2023. With the whole coaching situation and looking for a new opportunity to play, Sam Levit would transfer over to Arizona State, where he battled it out with Jeff Sims. Levit was really good last summer, and I heard about him potentially taking the quarterback 1 job. He did in fact do that, and then this past season, he went berserk. He completed 62% of his passes, while also throwing for 2,885 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 6 picks, and he also ran for 443 yards and 5 touchdowns on the ground. But that's not the best part about Sam Levit. He ended up leading Arizona State, one of the worst teams in college football the year prior, to a college football playoff appearance, and they almost ended up beating Texas. They were 1 4th down drop away from that, and Levit now returns to Arizona State in 2025, and he will be a redshirt sophomore. Levit checks a lot of boxes that NFL scouts are looking for, including the physical measurables, the leadership, the high completion percentage, the lack of turnovers, and overall just making winning plays. That's what the modern NFL is looking for, and Levit has an opportunity to have another big 2025 season, and if he does that, he could declare as just a junior and be drafted pretty early on. The second guy I want to talk about is new Tennessee quarterback Joey Aguilar. He is not really on anybody's NFL radar right now, but if history continues to repeat itself, Aguilar will end up getting drafted this next spring, as Tennessee has produced a lot of big-time quarterbacks, and Josh Heupel has done a really good job. It started with Hendon Hooker, then it was Joe Milton, and surely Nico Imaliava was also going to get drafted, but Aguilar ended up taking his spot after Nico transferred to UCLA, and it's just sort of a weird story. Aguilar ended up going to Freedom High School in California, where he threw for nearly 6,000 yards and 59 touchdowns during his college football career, but was an unranked recruit. He also ended up going to Diablo Valley, which is a school I have literally never heard of, before he would transfer to Appalachian State. Obviously, Appalachian State's one of the bigger group of 5 programs, and during these last 2 years, Aguilar had nearly 7,000 yards with a combined 56 passing touchdowns. His accuracy dropped a bit in 2024, but this guy put up big numbers and sort of had that gunslinger mindset. That's why he decided to transfer over to UCLA to replace Ethan Garbers, but as I said, Nico and his brother ended up coming to UCLA, and Joey went and took his spot at Tennessee. If he can learn Tennessee's offense quickly, Aguilar could be one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC and put up good enough numbers to get to the NFL. At 6'3", he's going to be tall enough to make it to the league, and while he may not have the most elite athleticism in the world, Josh Heupel has a good track record with quarterbacks right now, and I think Aguilar is a name to at least watch out for. At number 3, we have one of my favorite quarterbacks in the country in Josh Hoover. I've been talking about this guy for a while now on the channel, as I did a spotlight on him back in the fall, but Josh Hoover has really come out of nowhere after being just a 3-star recruit coming out of high school. At Rockwall Heath High School, he finished with nearly 10,000 yards and over 100 touchdowns, but wasn't really given a ton of credit. He originally committed to Indiana before flipping to TCU, where he appeared in 1 game as a freshman, but by the end of the 2023 season, he had taken over. He would end up throwing for 2,200 yards and 15 touchdowns in his final few games before taking over as the full-time starter this year, as he finished top 5 in a lot of categories, including throwing for 3,949 yards and 27 touchdowns. This was one of the best single seasons in TCU football history, and the Horned Frogs were pretty successful last year. Hoover, in my opinion, checks a lot of boxes, but I don't necessarily think he'll ever be a top-tier prospect. I think he has day 3 pick written all over him, but he's a guy who, in my opinion, the NFL needs to take seriously because I think he's going to put up ridiculous numbers in 2025. And number 4, we have Noah Fifita. Fifita was a humongous name this time last year as he was considered a Heisman candidate for Arizona. Going back in time, he was just a 3-star recruit coming out of Servite High School, and crazy enough, he played with 2 future first-round draft picks as both Mason Graham and receiver Tetairoa McMillan were his teammates in high school. Fifita ended up putting up over 7,000 yards during his career, but was only considered a high 3-star recruit. That was the consensus for him, and Fifita did not end up playing at all in 2022, and Fifita ended up being on the bench in 2022 behind Jaden DeLaura, and would take over midway through the 2023 campaign, and ended up blowing up. He threw for 2,869 yards with 25 touchdowns, but more importantly, he ended up leading Arizona football to one of its best seasons ever, and took them out of the cellar of the Power 4. Fifita was a ton of fun to watch, had a couple of really exciting games, and just sort of had that it factor. He also completed nearly 73% of his passes, so he was deadly accurate. Unfortunately, both him and Tetairoa would stay in Arizona instead of following Jedd Fisch to Washington, and this really bit Noah. They ended up bringing in Brent Brennan from San Jose State, and this was a terrible hire. Last year, Fifita did throw for a career-high 2,900 yards, but his completion percentage dropped nearly 12%, and he only had 18 touchdowns, and he doubled his interceptions. He had a bad year, and the offense just wasn't good. If the ball wasn't caught by Tetairoa McMillan, it wasn't going anywhere. Arizona missed a bowl game, and now everyone forgot about Noah. But if he can put things together again, he's in the Josh Hoover type category for me. At 5'10", it's going to be difficult for him to ever be drafted high, but I think he can sneak into that day 3 with another good season. And he's one of those guys that I think just has the it factor and just needs his confidence back. Okay, so my favorite quarterback for 2026 is actually Fernando Mendoza. The close second is Lenor Sers, but Mendoza goes to Indiana, which is my second favorite school to watch behind Mizzou, so I am super thrilled to see Fernando this upcoming fall. Coming out of high school, he was extremely underrated, as the 6'6" Mendoza put up crazy numbers at Columbus High School in Miami, ended up having some crazy moments at Columbus High School in Miami, but was very much a late riser. His only Power 4 program offer was from Cal, and he decided to take it. He was listed as a 2-star recruit, and Mendoza would not do anything his first year, but in 2023, he'd end up having 1,700 yards with 14 touchdowns off the bench. He was a lot like Josh Hoover in the sense that he played in the back half of the season, and they found their guy. 2024, Mendoza absolutely exploded, throwing for over 3,000 yards with 16 touchdowns, and he also completed nearly 69% of his passes. He was one of the more efficient passers in the ACC last year, and at 6'6", he has ridiculous upside. He has a good arm, is mobile enough, and I think with the right fine-tuning of his skill set, could end up being a first-round pick. I even saw an article while researching for him that some people think he is #1 overall pick type upside, but that's the thing. A lot of it right now is just upside. He's had good numbers so far, but can he put it together at Indiana? We'll have to wait and see. Was Curt Cignetti a one-year wonder? Was Curtis Rourke an exception to the rule? That I don't know. We'll find out a lot this upcoming fall about Mendoza in Indiana, and if things hit, he could be one of the top quarterbacks and a future face of a franchise in my opinion. I can't necessarily tell you why, but for our next guy, we're going to talk about Jackson Arnold. Arnold was a 5-star recruit at Denton Guyer High School, and as originally being the backup to Eli Stowers, he ended up having an offer from every school in the country and was a 5-star recruit. He was also the Gatorade Player of the Year, so when he committed to Oklahoma, everyone assumed that he was just next up in a long pipeline of big-time players. Unfortunately, Arnold was a backup to Dylan Gabriel his first year, and then this past season, he did not live up to the hype. He only had 1,400 yards with 12 touchdowns, and he also had a costly turnover that lost him the game against Mizzou, got benched a couple of times for Michael Hawkins Jr., and just did not seem to be on the same page. The Seth Luttrell offensive coordinator hire was seemingly a disastrous move, and Arnold's confidence was fried. It was best for him to move on, and now he's at Auburn. Auburn has not exactly been an NFL quarterback factory, but Jarrett Stidham did see a lot of success, and I think he's somewhat similar to Jackson Arnold. We'll see what happens, but if Arnold can have a good year in Hugh Freeze's system, maybe throw a lot of passes to Cam Coleman, then I think he can end up blowing back up. He's definitely a guy NFL scouts have been watching since he was in high school, so it just takes one good year in the SEC for him to be right back. I don't know if he'll be good enough to go off to the draft this year, or if he'll even be good in general, but Arnold is definitely a sleeper in my opinion, and someone we should not just totally forget about. The next guy I want to spotlight is a quarterback by the name of Talon Green. Coming out of Louisville High School in Texas, Talon Green was always an athletic freak as he was 6'6" and over 200 pounds, but never quite got the recruiting attention he deserved. He ended up getting offers from Boise State and a couple of other programs like that, but immediately he made a lot of schools pay, as in his redshirt freshman season with Boise State, he ended up with 2,000 yards and 14 touchdowns to go along with 600 yards and 10 scores on the ground. Green became one of the best group of 5 quarterbacks in the country and was expected to have a huge 2023 season. Unfortunately, things would fall off majorly in 2023 as his numbers would go down in every area, and he got a chance to go up to the Power 4 level and transferred to Arkansas. Last year, Green showed flashes of brilliance as he ended up with over 3,000 yards passing and 600 yards rushing, and combined for 23 touchdowns. Obviously that number needs to go up a little bit, and he did struggle with turnovers, but Talon Green has that it factor. He has the arm, he has the frame, and he has the athleticism to be an NFL quarterback, but can he put it all together? That's the big question mark, and we'll see how Talon does in 2025. Up next, we have Darien Mensah. He's a player that nobody's really talking about nationally, and especially for the NFL draft. But in my opinion, this guy is extremely underrated, as while at St. Joseph High School in California, he ended up having 2,300 yards and 25 touchdowns and was a 3-star recruit. He decided to commit to Tulane to play college football, and after sitting a year behind future NFL quarterback Michael Pratt, Mensah took over in 2024 and was kind of insane. He ended up throwing for 2,723 yards with 22 touchdowns. He also didn't have many turnovers and completed 66% of his passes. At 6'3", Darien Mensah has the size, and he also has the height because of the amount of money he's making. Duke decided to move on from Malik Murphy despite him winning 9 games, and Mensah decided to transfer to Duke, where he's apparently getting $8 million. He's one of the richest quarterbacks in college football right now, and Mensah's a guy that if he has a big year with Manny Diaz and the Blue Devils, I think could turn himself into an NFL draft prospect. I mean, at this point, I don't know why he wouldn't be. And also, on top of that, he had a top 20 QBR in the nation, and I think he's only going to get better. The big question mark for me is how he will do at Duke, and if he has the receivers in the system to get that out of him. We'll have to wait and see, but I think Darien Mensah deserves a mention. At number 9, we have Austin Simmons. This might be the most far-fetched player on the list, as Austin Simmons is a young guy, as I believe he's 19 years old right now, but has a chance to be drafted next year because it's his 3rd year of eligibility. He ended up spending time at 2 different high schools in Florida and put up crazy numbers. After originally committing to Florida, he would flip to Ole Miss and then would skip a year and enroll early. I think when Austin Simmons arrived on campus, he was 16 or 17 years old, probably 17, and after sitting out in 2023, he would end up having some snaps last year. He was the true backup to Jackson Dart, and he had a touchdown pass in his first game. He also came in relief against Georgia and had a crucial 4th quarter drive, which led many people to believe he was the future. Ole Miss has a bizarre quarterback room, as they brought in a backup from Oklahoma State, a big-time winner from Ferris State, and then their other former 4-star recruit I think got hurt and moved to receiver, so Simmons is the clear number 1 guy. And in Lane Kiffin's system, Simmons will look to be the 3rd straight player drafted behind Matt Corral and Dart. But for now, this is all based on hype and potential, because he has not done anything yet. And last but not least in the video, we're going to talk about Lenor Sers. I know he may not necessarily count as a sleeper, as a lot of people are talking about him, but in my eyes, he's still going under the radar based on how good he can be. Coming out of South Florence High School, he was a guy who flipped around, as he flipped to both Virginia Tech and Syracuse before ultimately getting a late offer from South Carolina and joining the Gamecocks. He also was bumped up to a 4-star recruit and showed big playability in his 1 year as a backup to Spencer Rattler. He had a couple of crazy plays and took over in 2024. This past season, Sers ended up throwing for 2,600 yards with 18 touchdowns. He completed 66% of his passes and had nearly 700 yards and 7 scores on the ground. He also battled an injury early on in the year, and Sers got better as the season went on. His best moment came against Clemson, as he had a crazy athletic run to win the game against their arch rival, and Sers was just starting to scrape the surface on how good he could be. He has the height, the arm, the athleticism, and I think the mental intangibles to be a big-time quarterback, which is why he's considered in the top 4 on some sites, and others believe he could be the top quarterback overall. Right now everyone's talking about Arch Manning and Garrett Nussmeier, but I think Lenor Sers could end up playing his way up to the top, and this guy is just so much fun to watch. So yeah, today we talked about 10 sleeper quarterbacks for the 2026 NFL Draft, as some of them haven't played yet, some of them are unknown, and some of them just need to take the next step. But what do you guys think? What are your thoughts on these quarterbacks? Who's a quarterback who in your opinion is going under the radar, and what topic should I cover next? Be sure to let me know down below, leave a like if you didn't support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out all my videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.